Join us for another episode where real men have real conversations about leadership, relationship, morality, and dominion. Welcome to Mancode.
Good evening, audience. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Mancode, where we discuss leadership, relationship, dominion, and morality. So again, welcome to Mancode. I think I said that backwards. That's okay. Everybody gets the point. But again, I just want to thank everybody. Today, you will notice we have special guests on. Now, my name is Jonathan Russell. I'm going to let everybody go around and introduce themselves. So gentlemen, go ahead and pick it up.
Malcolm Crawford. Good to see everyone.
I'm Philip Fisher.
I'm Will Huddleston.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, today we have some different guests on because we want to get a different mindset, a different viewpoint. Nothing to take away from anything or anyone. Our brother Austin, he will be on with us in our next couple episodes. So just keep looking out for him to return. But in the meantime, we're just going to keep it rolling with some fresh ideas and see what comes about. But I got an interesting topic. Well, actually, we all came up with an interesting topic and we just threw in our own tidbits about it. But this is something that a lot of men really don't address, particularly on a positive note, or really uncover things about it. So our broadcast today is going to be, let's talk about sex. It's not a taboo subject. It's not a negative thing. It's a very positive thing. God made it. So we wanted to just dig in a little bit and get some thoughts around sex, okay? Throwing in from a godly standpoint on top of that. Now, I want to bring this up because I've thought about this a lot in the past, and I'm not sure it's a battle for most, but we want to go ahead and kind of break it down. But let's talk about lust first, which I know builds an unhealthy appetite for sex. Why is that overlooked and dismissed?
Who's chiming in first?
Anyone?
I'll go first. I got an idea. I think that lust is overlooked because when we hear it, we kind of think of like the I want to say like a media type of. It's like when you hear the word dinosaur, like your mind kind of goes to somebody's depiction of it. Like you've never seen one, but like you've seen a lot of artists' renditions of a dinosaur. But so it's like when you hear dinosaur, you kind of go to that. And I kind of feel the same way about lust. It's like when we hear the word, we kind of run to like a certain image, but lust isn't just typical. It's not simply like sexual desire. Like lust is, at least from the definition I've borrowed from Ed Cole and Pastor Brooks, is the desire to benefit self at the expense of others. It's not just sexual. It's not just this idea of I'm feeling like, I'm feeling lusty. It's like, it's not just like, you might have a sexual yearning or in heat, as they would have said back in y'all day. But but it's the part where you're willing to do something to someone to benefit yourself at their expense. And so when I hear lust, I think about it like that now, and I'm understanding the connection to like sexual action, where it's not simply that, oh, I got a sexual desire. It's I'm willing to act on something despite what it's going to do to you, despite how it's going to damage you. And I think it's going to benefit me in that immediate moment. But if you have a kingdom mentality about it, you understand that that's also detrimental to your well-being as well. And so I think we don't even have a real agreed upon understanding, and maybe not even a biblical understanding of what lust is. So it's easy to skip that conversation and just jump into the sex part without understanding like the precursors type to even get to that conversation.
Who else want to take a stab at that?
I'd like to. First off, thank you for defining lust. That's an excellent definition of lust. But I think it's overlooked now because of our current cultural norms. We've run into this society, into this culture where everything is okay. Liberalism, where no, if I'd like to go and sleep with a dog, what should stop me from doing that? It's like this no holds barred culture that we've run into. And so even what would be considered taboo in biblical times, it's just completely overlooked. As I thought about this question, as Will was talking, I think about Sister Mary, who, the mother of Jesus. And, Bible tells us that Joseph would have put her away quiet, because the norm in that day was absolutely no sex prior to marriage. And he was a nice guy, so he was going to try to kind of silently let her slide so that she didn't get ridiculed. Her societal standing would have been destroyed. She probably still dealt with a lot of difficulties that we don't see in the work. But my point being that those norms are almost non-existent, especially outside of the Christian world. Now, even within the Christian world, there's a whole lot of confusion about this. We have issues with cohabitation and things along those lines. So I believe it's just because of our current cultural norms, and the fact that actually I shouldn't even call it a cultural norm. It's like there is no norm. It's just anything goes.
Wow, that was well said. I agree with both the gentlemen in what they said. However, I guess the basic definition too you could use for lust is anything that a strong desire for anything. And like Brother Will touched on it earlier, you can lust for a lot of things. You can lust for money, you can lust for sex, fame, esteem, and all those types of things. But anything that is used in a healthy manner that is detrimental to the health of someone else is not healthy. And like you said earlier, our culture now defines like pretty much anything goes, have it my way, the more that you get, the more the merrier and so forth. So there's really no restraint on a lot of things. But as far as we that are trying to live holy and godly, the Bible says if you walk in the flesh, you will not fulfill if you lust up the flesh, if you walk in the spirit, you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So what I'm trying to say there is that if you walk godly and so forth, these fleshly desires may not manifest themselves. But however, what I would say though, if you would just want to use it as a strong desire for something, I think it's okay to desire your wife, to pursue her, as long as something that he or she that they're not opposed to. You see, you don't want to do anything that's going to go against what they want. So a strong desire, strong pursuit, but it's to the point where you just losing control, restraint, and things that are not acceptable by God's standards. So I would say that's where it can become a problem.
So I know this is not a question, Jonathan, but Pastor Malcolm kind of opened the door, and I want to ask this question, and that simply is it biblical to lust after your wife?
I'm so glad you said that.
Can I go on this one?
Huh?
Let me add this one first.
Go ahead.
Go.
I don't think it's anything. Now, when it's in that content, because it's less attraction. Now, attraction is a healthy quality because you see different characteristics that draw you to that person. It's just not about wanting to bang them. So that's really where lust leads you in the sexual sense. Lust is always leading back to sex, and that's it. You may follow the so-called Steve Harvey 21-day rule and do all that jazz to get it. Yeah, because if you're a smart cat for the right thing, you'll wait, you'll be patient. But at the same time, once you get what you want, you're out. So in terms of a marriage, you've already connected covenant, you've already established your love boundaries. So I'm just gonna make a long story short, and I'll be honest, ain't nothing wrong with it because all things are undefiled in the bed under marriage. So answer your question.
All right.
All right. So I'm not married.
Okay.
I'm not married. So I'm speaking from what I've heard, and this comes from Ed Code too, because he was the first person I heard introduce the idea of lusting after your wife. I'm like, how can you possibly do that? But again, what it's consistent with his definition, which as of right now, it's the best definition I've heard, is like love is benefiting others at the expense of self, where lust is benefiting yourself at the expense of others. And so the way that I can understand the potential of lusting your wife is the type of dudes who have, like you said, like it kind of like sometimes it does lead to sex. So let's just talk about the sexual space because that's what the topic is right now. Sexually, I do agree and believe you can lust after your wife in the sense of you are doing the sexual act to please yourself. Like you're having sex with her to benefit yourself, not her. And so only in that realm I can understand, because that's how you get, because very technically you can rape your wife. That's a scary thought, but like that's lust. Very technically you can, like she might not be in a mood, she might be being sad or, just not wanting to do that. But you come on, baby, like you egging her on to do something that she doesn't want to do. is because you're doing it for the benefit of yourself. You're not catering to where she is right now. Like, you know what, maybe she needs to really talk about something and get something off her chest and, you know, do something besides sex. But because that's what I want, I'm going to get her to do what I want. And then at the completion, like, is she still, like, did she get something from that? Or did I get something from that? And so that's the thought that I have towards that. And again, I'm not married, so I haven't even had a chance to like even experience that. But just in theory, I can see that. And I think it makes sense.
Good breakdown, Will. Thank you.
It sounds dicey to me. That's why
Dicey, but I'm not speaking from experience. I'm not speaking from experience. But I'm like, okay, I can get that.
It sounds dicey to me. The reason why I brought it up is because, I think a strong passion or desire for your spouse is a strong passion or desire for your spouse.
Right.
And I don't want to muddy it up with something that is not. You know what I'm saying? So if lust is benefiting myself at the expense of someone else, then that's not benefiting the covenant that I'm in. It's not benefiting my spouse in any kind of way. She doesn't receive anything from me. And if me as the husband, my goal is to treat her as a bride, you know, is to cover, protect her, then my heart posture or position should not be in that way. It should not be that, even though sex is actually designed for both individuals to receive gratification. And so you will, as a male, we typically are easily gratified, where our significant other, basically sometimes it takes longer, or it takes other measures or things in order to bring them to a place of satisfaction. So, you know, if your heart posture is, well, I got mine, you need to get yours, you know, in the covenantness of that marriage, that's why I'm saying I can't see that. That's what I'm saying. That's what I said. Sounds dicey.
Let me add to that too. And when I read that definition, that was just the Webster Dictionary, but I would have put the word, the descriptor, a negative strong desire, because like I say too, because lust can blind you. And believe me, you know, I mean, you can lust after, this doesn't pertain to me, but you can lust after even maybe your spouse. And like you said, you guys touched on it. And anything that's, if it's the opposite of course, like you say, they use the definition to love is, you know, to sacrifice yourself at the expense of others, those type of things. So obviously lust is the reverse of that. And basically, I would like to use the word strong. I can go along with a strong passion, but to lust after someone, I think that may be borderline, not good.
And that's why I can get to
my lust after my wife self wrong, huh? Okay.
I'm not. No, I can't. I'm not gonna make that call. I can't say that to you. You know.
And just to clarify, that is why I want to start with a definite, like, to agree to conceptualize the word so we can all talk about the same thing. Because I don't think that lust is even like, because again, with that Ed Code definition, it doesn't necessarily talk about the emotional part. It's about motive. You know what I'm saying? It's not about, like, because I think a strong desire, like, desire is motive. It's an emotion. Like, I want you. You know, that's, we desire God. Like, you're not lusting after him. But it's like, I don't think that lust, if you take it to the utmost degree, has to necessarily be an emotion. Like, the desire you feel, like you said, that can be passion. You know, desire can be hunger. You know, it's the desire manifests in different ways depending on what it is that you are desiring. But I think lust is mostly about the motivation and the attitude and the heart posture when you're doing something or proceeding or planning to do something. Like, what are you doing? And who are you doing it for?
Right.
And that's the part that I think is lust, not necessarily like, you know, the feeling, because I think that is where it gets real muddy.
And I'm not trying to get too graphic here, but if you've ever seen those commercials, this is I'm gonna say it's a man show technically, but it is man talk. You know, if you ever seen that picture of Chester with his tongue out, that's what I say is lust. You know, Chester, and he has his tongue out to the side. That's what I picture in my mind when I hear the word lust. Like, you guys know where I'm coming from. That's what comes to my mind.
But if I'm chasing my wife around the house like a mad dog, I ain't never seen another one before in my life, and she's enjoying that, I'm
I say
just
that's
gonna leave
pursuit.
that one there.
I see it
That's
as
play.
pursuit.
That's passion
Pursuit.
pursuit. That's how I see that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna choose my words more carefully there.
And that's what I'm saying. I think it's a matter of motivation. Like, what is your
Y'all
motive?
brothers put me on. I'm
whatever
gonna
you're
bring
doing.
this one in. I'm gonna bring this one in. Now, do men and women view sex differently, and in what ways? Because I think we already starting to top on this a little bit.
In general, yes. Obviously, I don't want to say rules are made to be broken, but you have exceptions to every rule, right? So some women are far more attracted to just physical activity than others. What's the word? It really, I think it depends on the person. In general, like you probably could say maybe 80% of all men look at it in this direction, and same with women. And then you got that 20% that's, you don't want to call them an oddball or whatever, because it's like you said, if it's within the confines of marriage and whatnot, then it's all good. But yeah, we definitely in general look at it differently. You have to keep in mind women are designed to carry a child. So that's something that's always in the back of their mind. We're designed to spread seed. So, we're the thought is more prevalent in us, or excuse me, in them, in a woman, that this may lead to a child and it may be what she wants, than us. To us is in general, well, I'm just getting my rocks off, it's.
Yeah. Even to add
answer
what
to the
Philip was just
question.
saying,
Oh, go ahead.
I'll say just add to what Philip was saying. They come from a relational side as well. So sex for them is solidifying or even galvanizing the relationship or the expression of that relationship through the act of sex, versus men who could be doing it for that reason, but then also it is the urge or the desire or the passion to want to, fondle, kiss, touch, the female figure. So I think that there is a difference.
And I agree too with that, because just from our makeup, we are different. So with that being said, that's going to allow for some differences. But as Brother Phil said, there's a lot of similarities too. Most women, they like to make the emotional connection, the emotional attachment. Men, as far as most men, they're not so concerned about connecting with your emotion and if you feel me and so forth. You know what men want at the end of the day, until they start getting emotionally attached and connected. Most men can go out with a woman. Listen, I'm not talking about Christian men per se, hopefully, but most men, I think I'm gonna kind of refer back to my old nature, how I was back in the day. I didn't have a whole lot of, thought about connecting with you on that particular, this way. I'm just trying to hear at the end of the day, boom, boom, boom. But most women, not all, they like to make that connection before they start going, a little bit deeper. So yeah, I think we're a little bit different. They want to know that you really care for them and so forth and that type of thing. But there are some, that Brother Phil said, hey man, they want the same thing that you want, so hey, it's all good. That's how
to that, I'm going to say, I think y'all three did a good job of, because my initial reaction was, well, it depends on where and when you ask. If you ask the world in 2022, I think men and women think sex the same. I think men have done a great job of coaching women into having a very heartless approach to sex. Great job. Great job. I think the worldly men have conditioned worldly women, Christian women, to think about sex exactly the way they do, because no one's benefiting more than men as far as this whole sexual thing. What a sexual climate, current culture when it comes to sex. If you ask in a Christian community in 2022, I think that men and women would probably think of sex the same. Like I do understand and believe that there's different emotionality when it comes to it. So I do think that men kind of lean more towards the physical end, where women lean more towards the spiritual end. And I'll just break it down real quick. So I have this spectrum of mine, where it's like spiritual, emotional, logical, physical. And I think like men kind of do the physical and logical stuff a little bit more grounded in that area, and women are lean more towards the spiritual, emotional. And because sex is in essence, a spiritual act, I think women probably do. That's probably why it does take, women a little bit more to I would just say get there. I don't know if that's inappropriate, but because of that tie, right? Because you have to appeal to the spirituality, you have to appeal to the emotion. Whereas with men, we just kind of like, we're just kind of logical and physical creatures, and we can just go with the flow type of thing. But I don't think that the thought is different. It's just like the experience is maybe different. But getting back to what I think Phil started us off at is it depends on where and when you ask. But the world is like, they've done a great job of coaching women to the point where WAP is the #1 song in the world. That's amazing. So congrats.
But even
Congrats.
to that, Will, I would still say that even though the coaching has happened, the end results are still different. So
That's fair.
you could coach a woman to say yes easier, but still the impact of that encounter,
Yeah, that's
still
fair. You're
still going to impact them the same way. They're still going to either they're going to drill down on having more sexual partners so that they can feel empty, or they're going to continue to build on a stack of hurt. Even when they come to a relationship, they don't know how to connect because they've disconnected or tried to shut off the emotional relationship aspect, or they feel like somebody gonna get back at me like I got at somebody. So if I was like, if I took another girl's man, if I was a side piece, when they get into a relationship, they're gonna always think that their significant other or whatever female that is close to them, that's probably a side piece because that person was just like me. They start, it becomes this psychological, game. It all stems from them trying to think like a man, not trying to give any feeling to anybody's, branding. But because of that, I still think they still have the same impact and desire still to be relational, even though they're trying to play the game.
That's fair. I can see my point.
Now let's look at some hard data. A study that was done a few years back by Ohio State University. These are 7 things that are different about men and women, contrasting how we look at sex. Number 1, and we can all agree on this. Let's argue anytime. Men think more about sex. Duh. Okay. Men seek sex more avidly. They were saying that 2/3 of men masturbate and half of them feel guilty after doing it, versus 40% of women masturbate. They didn't say if they felt guilty about doing it. Women's sexual turn-ons are more complicated than men's. And that's that. If you had any deal with that, we are attracted by sight, and more sight. Women is definitely that emotional connection. They have to be in a state of relaxation with you. So it's a lot more, their attitudes are totally opposite of ours. And I'm just laying it out here so the men watching can really get an understanding of the difference. Now, women also, women's sex drives are more influenced by social and cultural factors. That's different.
Agree.
Let's look at that. We just got to be talking about this.
Yeah.
Social and cultural factors. So we look at our time state, and there was a sexual revolution a few years back. Women felt more liberated to show more of their skin, to be more outlandish in their sexual practices. And again, that's changed the whole scope. It used to be if you wanted to see a woman, and I'm talking years back, because you always had it available, you can go back to hieroglyphs that have pornography on it. So I'm not going to even pretend like, nudity and sexual deviancy is something new. This has been going on for thousands of years. But at the same time, it's now where women can walk down the street and look like walking down how they used to be years ago in the magazine. And a man's turned on by that. And we wonder why we have so many sexual assaults. But moving on. Another reason, women take a less direct route to sexual satisfaction than men.
Oh, wait, let me pause real quick. Only because I want to, because Philip said it earlier and you just said it again, but the word like liberal and liberal, liberal came up. And one comment I have about that in my mind is always, well, liberating from what? Like, what is it that you're trying to be free from? And because I think that you can't just say liberal and, I think we need to be liberal, progressive, or progress towards what? Liberate from what? And I think that goes into the where do you ask and when do you ask conundrum, because 2022 in America, goodness gracious, you know what I'm saying? Like I think the country is built on some pretty ugly skeletons of Christianity. I don't think we're a Christian nation, but I do think we carry some Christian principles. And I think those Christian principles were enough to kind of keep things a little, let's say, subtle back, a couple hundred years ago. But now that we're in this place now, and we're liberating from those, Christian moral principles to where you can be whatever you want and do whatever you want and do whoever you want. And you can blur lines and whatever, because I think the liberal part is that there is a push away from God and godliness of conduct, like social conduct. Yeah.
Great breakdown on that. This is another difference, and this is, again, nothing new. Women experience orgasms differently than men. Duh, we know that. Because again, it's a mental thing with women. With us, it's all physical. It's in what we feel with our body. With them, is what they feel in their mind. These are some, again, I just want to point these out. When we look at how we look at sex different, I just really want to break down why we look at sex, even in terms of relationships and monogamy. You have 25 to 40% of married men that have affairs versus 20 to 25% of women. And it's not that they can't. I'm gonna be honest, women have way more opportunities to cheat than we do. We just don't realize it, because our eyes ain't open to it. But at the same time, it's what we view sex in the light of and the importance of it. Any more add-ins on that one?
So I would add a couple of things. One, it's not just emotional attraction for women. It's not a head game. It's also a sense game. Women are actually drawn to certain smells. And so, if a particular cologne has a certain fragrance, that actually stimulates or can stimulate a woman towards sexual thought or arousal, whichever one you want to, however you want to look at that. I think as far as the data, and speaking to Will, as far as the times, I don't know how recent that data was generated, but just looking at the scope of how people are viewing relationships now, I dare say those percentages probably are slightly higher, only because when you look at how people are, again, to Will's point, playing this game, you have more women who are actually now pursuing men for sex. You have women who are not waiting. We see on videos all the time, women getting on one knee and proposing to men for marriage. You just have basically this more aggressive state of, and then biblically, we know that we are in those times because we're in the times where people are exchanging the affections, the healthy affections for, we know that we're in a time when the Bible talked about that women will be satisfied with the name, that they could be tied to one man. They'll be good with just being connected to one man. So 3 women to 1 man, and they cool with it. This whole side chick thing, all this basically is a depiction of what biblically saying that is to come, that's here. So
I heard somebody refer to that as modern polygamy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, and people are trying to spin it as strategy game or even entrepreneurship. I caught an episode.
No, I never thought about it like that. It is entrepreneurship. Oh my God.
Because what they were saying was like, in the music industry or whatever, you had like the dude may be a producer, and so he has somebody who is his number one, but then he may have these other artists who he's bringing in up under his label that are actually side pieces, but they're in a contractual agreement to benefit everybody in the circle. And everybody is good with it because everybody is benefiting from the relationship. I'm getting something out of it, so therefore I don't feel used. I'm a willing participant. So in their head, they're saying I can't be hurt. But in actuality, once again, no matter what lie you tell yourself, you always go back to what is innately in us. You are an emotional, being. You want to be connected. You want to be desired. You want to be accepted. You want a name. It's just hardwired to want a name. And so if you're borrowing a name, at some point, you're going to try to blow up the spot in order to get the name. Because at the end of the day, you want the name. the name is the prize. The name is the trophy. That's why the number one is always saying, you don't matter. I'm the one with the ring. I'm the one with the name. They know what the value is, but you can continue to lie to yourself to say, I benefit mutually from it. And so I think that's another reason why this conversation about sex is so important, because we're using sometimes sex as a bargaining chip in order to get what we.
I look at it like this. You get out of it what you put into it. So if you bring the passion, man, you bring the heat, you will appreciate it and you will understand it. I think, like alluding to Pastor Malcolm's point, I think that having a mind based in the Lord, you look at sex a little bit different. Not just from a standpoint of, well, now, I got saved. I can only have sex with my wife because that's going to make God unhappy. No, but when you look at the fact that it's not owed to you, and I look at a lot of couples that for some reason or another have not been able to have sexual relations with one another, but they still been together. So you have to look at, sometimes it goes beyond the physical nature of the sex, but the more you understand that, the more appreciative you are of it, and the more budding of a sexual relationship you can have at home with your wife. But for you single people, I'm gonna definitely tell you, see God, wait till you're married, find the right person, take the right steps to get to know people before you sleep with them. Sleeping with them, loving the sex is not the definition of a relationship. That is something that's like the frosting on the cake. You may have pretty frosting, that cake might be boo-boo underneath. You never know what you're getting. So again, think smart. But audience, I just want to thank y'all. This has been another great edition of the Mancode podcast. I want to encourage everyone, if you like this content, whether you like it or not, like it, share it out, because somebody needs to hear this. Somebody's eyes just need to be open just to hear something different. And definitely subscribe to the channel. Recommend us and drop feed into the discussion. Let us know what you liked about the video. Let us know what you did not like. We want to know, we want to hear from you, because we want to bring things that are impactful, but also just give you a perspective that can lead you into the right place. So again, thank you for joining this edition of Mancode. Until next time, keep the Mancode, and we'll see you soon. All right.